Sometimes I make a great big bold headline and people are like, man, what a bold headline, being dramatic. And I get all these views, but then I get a whole bunch of trolls too. So it's like a trade-off. And then I make a video like yesterday where I have a conservative title and people don't show up and watch it very much. And then I lose money on YouTube revenue. And that's the struggle of being a YouTube forecaster, always trying to get people watching and trying to keep you up to date with what's actually going on as well. So we've been talking about this week, the cold snap. We've been talking about where that's going. Particularly feel bad for Saskatchewan. The good news is it's not going to last very long. We do have a December warm-up coming across the board in Western Canada, so enjoy those sunny skies while you got them now, because there's snow coming to BC again big time this weekend, and then we're going to be back into this Pacific pattern for a while, I think, kicking storms right back at us like it has been the case. So for those of us who've been really chilly at night, it was down to minus 16 here last night. That's bordering on very cold, bordering on. It's definitely a chilly night, and definitely the kind of night that if you're not properly dressed for and you're out in it, could end your life or result in you losing fingers or something like that. So here's the good news. It's going to warm up. There's a big storm coming this weekend to BC. It's on for sure. Here's the bad news show. There it is. This is bad news. My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen. Get on! Wow. I'll watch the video later. Ain't dry mopping this. I'm Joey on the Caribou Weather Dude. Hit like, share, subscribe. It's the 26th of November. It's noon hour right as I hit record today. It's 12 noon and it's nice and sunny here in Wells and warming up. Let's have a look at all the weather stories going on in Canada. Let's go. Middle of the afternoon. So these are daytime highs. It probably won't get much warmer than that. It's minus 33, I think it was, in Eureka, Nunavut right now. So very cold up there. And some of that kind of cold is going to scream down towards you, Saskatchewan, still this week. There's no getting away from it. The good news is it won't stay for very long. It is gonna rebound back into seasonal or above temperatures very quickly for even you and for us in BC too. So luckily, that was the main story this week. Like the cold is gonna be kind of cutting the province a little bit in half, and how much is it going to be able to push down? So far, it's showing that it's not going to really push that far down, and we're going to have a return to Pacific flow. So for a lot of us, we're getting lucky. Although there's still been some cold temperatures. There's still been people getting minus 20s in BC at night, and that's sucks. But that's winter as well. That happens. Coldest place is in the country right now. In southern Canada, I should say, hitting minus 22 in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, over in Lloydminster hitting minus 21. Temperatures like that being seen in that central part of Saskatchewan. 23s in Meadow Lake. Yeah, chilly. Special weather statement for fog in Manitoba has ended, but we have a brand new snowfall warning now for BC North. Winter storm coming for Stewart today, starting into Wednesday night. And this will be the first of several. A weather system will move down from the Gulf of Alaska today and onto the north coast Wednesday morning. Intermittent flurries today will become more continuous as snow this afternoon and persist through Wednesday night, with total accumulations of up to 45 centimeters expected by Thursday morning. There could be another heavy snow to continue through Thursday as another weather system approaches the north coast, but snowfall amounts are uncertain at this time. And there is still a snow squall warning happening in Searchmount, Ontario. 15 to 30 centimeters possible there. Some chances for snow in Ontario this week, and a little bit of snow up by Timmins there, 10 to 15 centimeters in the higher terrain. Thanks to Diggy's Diner, Moose Island Foods, for buying me my weather station. And Moose Island Foods now, they're dried. It's like bush food. You can take and add water in the full, complete meals, and they have them now at the No Frills in Quesnel available there. So that's kind of cool. High pressure climbing up to 1,006.10 hectopascal. So every day we've looked at this, we've seen this number climbing, and with that comes the colder temperatures at night. Although it's nice right now in the sun. The sun is beaming through 0.5. It's doing its radiant work. Right, the radiative power of the sun is getting through right now, and it's really warming things up wonderfully. But we did have a low last night of minus 16. Very, very chilly. Almost the chilliest we've seen so far this entire year. We had a 16.1 on November, exactly a week ago. I believe it was at a 16.1. So just a touch colder than we got last night. An Arctic ridge continues to push southward to northern BC, bringing strong outflow through northwestern coastal ranges this morning. Strong winds will ease later this afternoon, maybe by the time you've watched this. A change in the weather patterns expected with a cool northwesterly flow aloft developing on Tuesday. This pattern will be in place for the rest of the work week. Disturbances riding down the northwesterly flow will spread periods of heavy snow and flurries to coastal and interior ranges on Wednesday and Thursday. Current guidance is suggesting the snow-liquid ratio would be large for this event, so we could see some big snow still, but no one's exactly sure on this one yet because of the way it's going to ride down. This afternoon on the BC coast, there could be light snow starting in the northwest ranges. It will pick up overnight. Will be partly cloudy for southwest coast ranges, increasing cloudiness with a chance of light flurries through overnight hours in the BC interior. Partly cloudy for the Columbias and Rockies, and increasing cloudiness with a chance of light flurries towards morning time hours. Wednesday, that snow going to be stacking up. Chance of flurries down that contact line for where the high pressure is basically meeting up against this low. Partly cloudy down south, could see a little bit of flurries. Moderate snow with ridgetop winds over the north coast ranges on Wednesday morning. Mainly cloudy, chance of light flurries for southwest coast ranges. In the BC interior, mainly cloudy with light flurries for southeast interior ranges. Light flurries. The cloud's good. We want the cloud. That'll help keep things warmer. So we're really cheering for this Pacific weather to knock these temperatures back. And someone did make a good point. They said, well, we require minus 20s. In fact, minus 30 and even up to minus 40 for a long stretch of time in the winter. That's healthy for the forest. It kills bugs and things like that. And I am aware of this. My hope is that those extreme cold snaps will be at the time of year that they belong in. You know, I'm happy to have that in January for a couple weeks. Like, that's okay. It's January. It's the dead of winter. It's going to be the coldest it's going to get for a while. Let's hunker on through this. I just, personally for me in November, if I can avoid having any stretch of 20s, and if I can have my water lines not freeze up before it's even actually winter, that's great. So I've been happy that this forecast period that we've been in right now has worked out to be not as cold as it could have been. We've really been watching that air mass. We'll watch it some more today. Starting Tuesday night, see cold air in northern BC, quite likely. There is some models showing that Fort St. John might be warmer, and I said for Tuesday overnight into Wednesday, and I said I was skeptical on that yesterday, and I feel kind of absolved already. Looking at Wednesday afternoon, that cold, you can see now how that ridging from that high pressure is really setting up against this troughing on the low side here, and you can see how that's going to force the low to want to slide down. And we'll come back here in a minute and we'll re-watch our weather expectations for precipitation. Keep this a little bit short today, but more or less Wednesday night, now that beast of a cold is bumping on down. Wednesday overnight up into the Peace, we're really thinking you're going to see some 20s. Into southern Alberta, some 20s. Into southern Saskatchewan, some 20s. Looks like mostly Manitoba misses out on the cold, maybe a little bit near the Saskatchewan border. That cold air now sitting in. It won't warm up too much during the day. I mean, the sun will have some radiant effect like it's having here today, but the air itself is going to be quite cold, right? Minus 29 overnight on Friday. Oh, overnight into Friday. Not nice all day Friday. And you see that air is sitting real cold in BC, and already we're catching that warm-up break in southern BC. So that's great news. Congratulations. And that digs in deep. It digs in deep. It's cold up in northern BC by the time Saturday morning comes along. Very cold, bitter cold, and we are benefiting from southwest Pacific flow. Oh, that's great news. That's great news. Not so great news this weekend for people in Saskatchewan. That hasn't really changed, It looks a little different than yesterday, but more or less it's the same shape, moving almost the same times in the same ways. Although the big forecast changes, we're seeing a much higher rebound for BC temperatures now, much higher, and that's because bigger snow is expected. It's going to be bigger snow, I think, this weekend, and look at that. Yeah, here comes your warm-up into the prairies, and this is what we're going to leave you with here in terms of temperature, and we'll go look at storms here in a second. But there is, oh boy, man, that cold is fighting, but you get those warm-ups into next week possibly, and we'll see what this cold air does. It might make a run east. And heaven help you there in the east if this makes it into the south. So we'll play the snow graphic out for today. That's what we're going to do today. See snowing in northern Ontario, snow up through Northwest Territories into Nunavut, a little bit of snow up on the BC, Alaska and Yukon border and the St. Elias Mountains, the White Pass and things like that. Here's where our snowfall warning is already in place. Watch how that bugger's going to slide on down. And now by Wednesday at 9 a.m., that central coast is starting to see some of that. It's starting to work its way down this. And every time we look at this, it gives us sort of a different solution, a different idea of what that's going to look like. Pretty much everybody who's in the warmer sector of the province already on Wednesday evening are seeing some of that snow transition. You're not so lucky in Fort Nelson, not so lucky you get the pure cold there. And that snow now stacking up. And here's what I'm thinking about a lot, and I'm not ready to call it yet, but I'm thinking we have this next storm coming in, and it may have atmospheric river characteristics when it does. So we may come back into a really, really positive precipitation scenario for British Columbia. Here's this guy coming, and look at the tail end behind him. It's going to look wonky here, so I don't trust that what we're going to see today in the model for what these lows look like and what they do is what's actually going to happen. No, I don't trust that at all because it looks too wonky to me. Wonky shapes. I mean, this is realistic. Powerful storm going on in Atlantic Canada and down in New York and the Vermont areas, whatnot, snow on the backside of that low into northern Ontario. And here we are Thursday evening, 6 o'clock, and there's BC just getting dumped on. Terrace getting dumped on. Still cold in Fort St. John. And, I bet you're cheering for this snow to bust on through. The more that this snow can push in towards you, the more snow that you can get. It's not just spilling over the mountains a little bit and falling because it's just too cold to stay in the air. No, okay. If it can make its way this way a little bit for you guys, you're going to see that warm up too. So far, nothing looks like that. But here we go. Here's where I'm thinking like we have this atmospheric river potential. So already Thursday night, snow all over northern BC. This is a forecast change. This is a lot more snow than we've been seeing in any of the models over the last bunch of days. This is great news. Great news. And watch this ribbon of moisture. It's got a wonky shape to it, but it's going to keep producing, and it's going to do so for quite a while. And that's why we're seeing those temperatures rebound. Look at that. Friday, if we can get some of that snow really happening into northern BC, maybe that can knock your temperatures up. It's not showing that right now, right? But realistically, if this can pound further over there and you're getting that heavy snow, often heavy snow won't fall when it's minus 20. It's not generally how it works. Generally, it's falling before it gets to that place. So maybe this will encourage the warm up, but I don't know. There's some weird things happening here that all week we've seen the models be kind of confused as to how this is all going to play out. We've been looking at different models. We looked at the GFS, we looked at the GDPS this week, we've looked at ECMWF, we've had a peek at ICON even, and every one of them has offered different solutions every day. Nonetheless, Friday evening, now we're talking big snow in northern BC, snow down the Caribou, snow down the coast. So maybe we're not getting it like we were seeing in models yesterday through Thursday. Maybe, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe we are. Maybe we're seeing more snow this week than we really thought. So the hope that snow would come and push this cold back, and people were laughing, saying that's the most Canadian thing ever. You're hoping for snow because it'll warm things up. And well, that's how it sometimes actually works, because cold air cannot hold moisture. It just cannot do that. It's extreme cold. Maybe super cool water for a time can hang out in cold air, but no, eventually whereas warm air carries a lot of moisture, and that's why these storms, they're warm, they're packing a lot of moisture. Saturday morning, maybe big snow across northern BC, and look at the same target area for the coast just seems to be lit up for days and days and days, and that's why I'm thinking atmospheric river potential is there, that maybe we'll see some statements from BC River Forecast Center, things like that coming up. I'm certain we've already seen our first snowfall warning issued by Environment Canada. I'm certain we're going to see more statements and watches and warnings like that And wow, just watch how this continuously pounds into BC now, starting into next week. And there's our temperatures rebounding like we saw on the map. And that's great news for us. Really great news. Really great news. And eventually we'll send some of that snow over to you in the prairies here, and that'll help warm you up a little bit too. Really great news, although the cold is still sitting up there, as you see, and we've been fighting up against it. So that's sort of a big question mark for me, the piece over the next bunch of days for your snowfall totals. Because if it's very, very cold, it's hard for me to believe you'll get a lot of snow, all right? If you get a lot of snow, it'll be hard for me to believe it's very, very cold. So we'll just, we'll watch this interaction, I think, in our next forecast videos and try to get a better sense on what that all means. But I think now we've got some solutions that BC is coming back into Pacific pattern, back into Pacific flow. And every day, just trying to dial it in a little more and get a better and better picture of what's going on. And I think after that last big storm we had last week, that series of storms, really, it was 2 bomb cyclones in a row. It was one area of instability that produced a lot of bad weather. And what happens is sometimes you have a major event like that, and it's like, well, did the North Pacific just blow its load? Like, is that it for a while? And you're like, oh, there's cold coming. Is that it for a while? And no, I guess we have our answer, that this is just the polar vortex is breaking down a little bit, and it's breathing out some cold air and sending it south. Yep, sure, it's doing that. That's happening. However, our Pacific Ocean is not going to be affected for very long by that high pressure. The high pressure will kind of go back into place, and we'll have that same mechanism we had before, more or less, where you had the low up in Alaska and you had the high down south off the BC coast, and it's whipping stuff just straight into the coast on a trajectory like we just saw. That would, more or less make for atmospheric river conditions, could bring big snow back into BC, and I'm totally in favor of that. I want a big snow year. I need that. Personally, it's so boring here living in the mountains when we have a winter like last year. It was a historic winter. We'd never seen anything like it before in Wells. Like the 15 feet of measurable precipitation instead of 35 that sometimes lands at the Barkerville weather station. You get what I'm saying? Oh boy, yeah. Well, this more or less, says it all. Like, people have these crazy beliefs that they think are real, and you try to just explain to them things that are provable and calculable. You get people like Tina, who thinks that contrails are going to stop in the sky when Robert Kennedy Jr. comes into office. They obviously do not understand that we can predict contrails. In fact, let's predict contrails right now for a minute. Very cold in the BC interior today, and that gives me the opinion that because of that cold air, and it's the same thing we were talking about before, where cold air cannot hold moisture. So what happens is the vapor particles condense and freeze, and that makes a cloud, right? So we do have longer contrails possible at 3,600 feet today, 3,500 feet today. So you're going to see, and that's the range that a lot of aircrafts are flying in. And as you can see, we have, so minimal contrails could be, so we got a chance of contrails today in the sky because of this cold weather. Up at 4,000 meters, there's only 15% humidity up there. Very cold air. And that air cannot hold water vapor at all. It must condense. 7 million birds culled in BC's Fraser Valley due to avian flu. That is pure horror, if you ask me. Family in Ontario is selling their house over a Christmas lights bylaw. I'd like to know where this town is. If I ever move back to Ontario, I think sounds like a good place for me. Well, that's all I'm going to throw at you for today, everybody. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Please support the channel any way you can. Become a member, become a Patreon, buy a super, give a little donation kick down here, buy me a coffee, something like that. Do what you can to help keep Joey forecasting, because do what I can do for you here, sitting up in the mountains, try to keep you up to date and explain to you why things are the way they are and why they will likely be what they are going to be. That's the show for today, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Bye now.